wrestling podcast never felt this great.
Brothers and sisters, welcome back to the three-time award-winning podcast, Devon and The Duke. This is a limited edition podcast hosted by your main man, Duke Loves Wrestling, and of course, the five-time Hall of Famer, the man who should be Father of the Year. I don't care what Titus O'Neil says, Devon Dudley. What's going on there, Devon?
Hey, how you doing, man? Just out here in my pool area with my girls, and they're causing mayhem as usual.
As usual, as you know, I keep saying it. They are the real stars of the show because as long as you and I have been doing this, folks get a little glimpse into the life of Devon Dudley, Devon the father, the softer side of Devon, and they actually enjoy it. They enjoy hearing you talk about your family and the love you have for your family. So that's good stuff, man.
Here's what I want to say. If you and I had to talk about the weather and about the flu, and it went viral. So it seems like every time I talk, it goes viral, which is great. But now that I'm talking about my girls, let's let my girls go viral. Let them get some stardom. I want to see them. I want to see them go to the front page. I want to see them get their just due. Because when Daddy stops making the money, and Daddy is no longer being able to go out there, now it'll be their turn. So now they got to take care of Daddy.
All right, we got to work on that. Let's hashtag Dudley Daughters. Hashtag Dudley Daughters. Let's see what we can do with that. You know what I'm saying?
That might be an Instagram post.
It should be. It should be. We're going to work on that. But listen, man. You and I, we like to have fun and talk about all different things related to culture. We talk about food. We talk about television and movies, obviously. But the thing that we always talk about is music. And I'm a rock and roll guy, just like you are. We're hip hop guys. We're jazz guys, the whole 9 yards. But I got a call from a very close friend of ours, Adam Bernard. He has Foundation Radio. He does the show with Blue Meanie, The Mind of Meanie. Adam is just a great dude that I've collaborated with for years, and I love him. That's my brother. And he said, "Hey, man, are you a Guns N' Roses fan?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I am." I said, "And Devon is too." He said, "Great, because I know a guy who is part of the Guns N' Roses family, and he's a huge ECW fan as well." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Do you want to interview him?" I said, "Brother, what are you waiting on? Let's do it." So I got the information and I connected with that guy. And at the same time, I told you about it, Devon, and you had revealed to me that your brother, Bubba Ray Dudley, is a huge Guns N' Roses fan. And I said to you, well, you know what, Devon? We got to make that bastard jealous, okay? Because, ladies and gentlemen, a man that is not only a road manager, a creative maven, an author, a man responsible for at least one of the greatest songs in the history of music. Again, he's also a huge ECW and pro wrestling fan, and is a Yankees fan, which I love him even more for that. Without further ado, Del James, welcome to Devon and The Duke. How you doing, brother?
Hey, thank you for having me, and thank you for that introduction, man. That was fantastic. I'm beyond psyched to be here. Devon, you have no idea how big of an imprint ECW has on me. Back in the day when you had to buy a dish in order to get Dish Network, I bought a satellite dish strictly to watch ECW on like Sports Channel Philadelphia. Could not miss an episode. And what you guys did and were doing at that time was unlike anything anybody had ever seen before. It was mind blowing.
I'm still amazed at some of the things we did. When I look back at some of the old videos on YouTube, I have some of the VHS tapes that were used in the studio to put the programming out there for the fans. I used to ask Paulie for some tapes, and he would give them to me. He'd have the producers of the show send them to me. So I have some of the original ECW VHS tapes that I look at, and just looking at what we did back then and the history that we created and how we took a small company from a bingo hall in South Philadelphia, Swanson and Rittner, who only hold maybe 1,000 people, if that, turned the wrestling world upside down, even to the point where it made the WWF take notice and had to change their product to what we were doing because it was getting over so big. You know, I like to say that the ECW was the land of the misfits because nobody wanted us. Nobody, WCW wasn't looking to hire us. WWF wasn't looking to hire us. We were too off the charts for them to even want to touch us. And that was when we said, well, you know what? F you, man. Paul Heyman is willing to take us in. Paul Heyman is willing to work with us and to get us to a level that we need to be. So that's where we're going to go. And we made ECW our home. You know, me and Bubba, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we were there for 5 years. And, you know, I could not tell you how grateful I am for that, man. So to be able to have someone like yourself come on this show and tell me how much we influenced your life and how we entertained you to that level, it really warms my heart because you have no idea how much Guns N' Roses did it for me. We talked a little bit off the air, but you know, I'm gonna bring it back a little bit. When I was a big heavy metal fan when I was in Long Island, and you know, my favorite band was Iron Maiden and my favorite song was Revelations. Also, Ozzy Osbourne, Killer of Giants, which is what introduced me to metal. And I remember falling in love, and then, of course, years go by. I grew to love Dio, Metallica, you know, Warrant, all of those Poison. You know, huge fan of all those guys. Still listening to rap. Don't get me wrong. I didn't lose that. But I just enjoyed metal music so much. And then all of a sudden, you know, Nirvana came in and just kicked in the door and just wiped out the hair bands, man. It was like they were all gone. And it got to the point where I was upset because that was when the transformation was going from the 80s to the 90s. And I was still so stuck in the 80s that I didn't want to go into the 90s. But then long and behold, I'm in I'm in football practice and we're in the locker room, we're changing, and someone puts in a cassette tape uh, of Guns N' Roses, their first album. And I remember going, what is this? And it's a new band, Guns N' Roses. And I was like, I think I like this. So I went and got me a cassette tape, had my grandmother take me to go get a cassette tape, put it in my Walkman, and I started listening to it. Now I had to walk at least 2 to 3 miles. Maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe 2 miles from my house to the bus stop. 'Cause I had to meet it all the way down at the corner. Uh, and so I basically would take my Walkman, put that in there, and I mean, it would make the time go by so fast walking from my home to the bus or to the school that I learned every lyric of those songs by the time I think man, I think I'm maybe 3 months into having the cassette tape because I enjoyed it so much. I played it over and over again until the tape destroyed. It was that much love I had from Guns N' Roses, and to see everybody the way they took to Guns N' Roses, and then to see the video on MTV made it even more warming and heartwarming for me. So I loved every bit of it, and I can't begin to tell you as much as I influenced you guys influenced me. So thank you.
A, you're welcome. B, you're right. Revelations is the best Iron Maiden song, period, exclamation point. I saw Maiden open for Judas Priest with Paul Diano, then with Bruce Dickinson, and then I saw Maiden headline Madison Square Garden on the Peace of Mind tour. When you bring up the connection, the correlation between ECW and Guns N' Roses, essentially both products, both brands were the rebels. Both brands were the outsiders who did not give a flying fuck what you thought. They were going to do it their way. And that rebellious spirit, there's something real about both brands that's utterly undeniable, and that it played a part of your life it's just magnificent to hear.
Thank you. I mean, I think we talked also. before my good friend Duke forgot to
Uh-oh.
push the record button. I'm calling you out, Duke. um, no, but there was a shirt that we had, and it summed it up in many different ways. Politically incorrect, and damn proud of it. We didn't go by the rules. We didn't care what you thought. We were going to do what we wanted to do. And when it came to the point where WWE, or I should say WWF and WCW didn't want us, we were rebellious in a sense. We wanted to prove to both companies that, hey, we belong somewhere in this business, and we're not going to let you stop us like you have so many others. And because Paul Heyman gave us the platform to be able to do that and to express our opinions and to do what we do best, it was like it just exploded. Shane Douglas was a prime example. In WCW, in WWE, was overlooked. Both companies did not think he had what it took to be a main event guy or a world's champion. But meanwhile, he goes to ECW under Paul Heyman and just literally destroys it. Becomes one of the most hated wrestlers in professional wrestling during that era. And again, that just shows you the power of Paul Heyman. And I'm so glad to say that he's in WWE now, doing that with some of the young guys that are there now that he's coaching and mentoring. So my hat goes off to Paul Heyman.
The franchise Shane Douglas. I mean, the triple threat were such a great faction. But when you speak about not being wanted, there's a similarity that holds true. So I move out from New York to Los Angeles in 1985, and my first friends, just by chance, are in this band called Guns N' Roses. We meet by accident. We become friends the same way you bond with people. You have similar likes and similar dreams and interests, so on and so forth. And so we're hanging out before I've seen them play, and they keep talking about Guns N' Roses, and they live this life of rock and roll hedonism and dedication. And so I finally see them, and it's me and like 40 other people at the Troubadour, a Thursday night. So they're fantastic. They play Rocket Queen for the very first time live.
Mm,
You know, me and everyone who was present knew that we were seeing something special, but who knew if it would catch on? So this salt of the earth grassroots momentum starts happening, where the first show drew 40 people, then the next show drew 100 people, then the next show drew 300 people, so on and so forth. The record industry in Los Angeles wasn't very receptive at first, but by the time Guns N' Roses are playing to 1,000 people at the Whiskey A Go Go or the Roxy Theater or Gazzari's or the Troubadour, it's become undeniable, just like ECW was undeniable. And it's then when the powers that can sign you to the recording contract took notice of them. This many kids can't be wrong.
yeah. Again, it's just one of those things where I will always treasure everything that it came out of the 90s and the 80s. But most importantly, you know, it influenced not only professional wrestling, but a generation of people. I just wish this generation nowadays would understand how special it was, and everything you just said, how it falls into place and makes sense. It's just this generation just seems to be so lost to me sometimes. I'm not saying all. I love the generation, but at the same token, I just feel that they don't know how special it was to grow up during that era. Where everything now you touch, you go on YouTube, you can find anything you want, how to fix something, how to build something, everything. We didn't do that. We had to go in and take a class and learn. We had to look up, go through encyclopedias and things like that. I haven't even seen a encyclopedia in decades. With the new, with everything that's going on now on social media and the computer system, and all, I just haven't seen it. Dictionaries is unheard of, is obsolete now. I don't think I think this is why our generation is still probably still as smart as we are and understand life better because everything is done through social media with this new generation. And without social media, they're lost. Like for instance, I'm in the car driving. I first started in ECW. I'm in the car driving from whatever town to the next town, and I have a map. And I'm reading the map on how to get to the building or even get to the hotel, you know? Meanwhile, today you press a button, you type it in, and it tells you step by step how to get to where you gotta be. I mean, and I look at some of the new guys now. I was driving. This was when I came back to WWE, and I forgot who I was in the car with. I don't remember. Our phones weren't working. And to me, I was always told to carry a map with you always. So I did. So I said, hey, pull the car over. I pulled it over. I went in my bag. I got my map and I'm driving. I said, here's the map. I said, do me a favor, look it up and tell me where we're going. They had no clue. They had no clue how to do that. And I'm just like, never seen them.
They have
Never.
never seen the
And I'm
Thomas
just like,
Guide.
wow. And that just showed me
Okay.
about this generation. It's like they're not, I'm sorry to say this, but they're not as smart as us. And that's,
Particip- Participation was so important to us. It was more important to me to
mm-hmm,
hang out with my friends than to chase girls or whatever. It was about brotherhood. It was about bonding. It was about the experience of going to the show, going to the sporting event, uh, doing shit hands on. Watching the guy who's older than me with more knowledge wrench on the motorcycle. So next time when my bike breaks
mm-hmm.
down, I know how to wrench on the
You
bike.
don't get that anymore.
You know, the the Tom the Thomas Guide, for those of you people who are listening and don't know, was like this almanac of maps, and touring in the van, touring on the bus. You had to have the Thomas Guide in order to know where you were going. And okay, so you hung a wrong turn and got lost and wound up in the wrong town. You can fix that just by turning
Mm-hmm.
around and following the
I had somebody, we
instructions.
were going somewhere. All right, the same guy. I can't remember who it was though. Same guy, and we were low on battery, and we're driving, and he goes, "Man," he was like, "I hope we get to where we're gonna get to quick." I go, "Why?" He goes, "My phone's about to die, and we're looking at the map." I go, "And?" He goes, "Well, we mean and?" He goes, "How are we going?" He goes, "How are we gonna get there?" I said, "You're serious?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, even if I didn't have my map in the back of my suitcase in the back, I can find the nearest gas station and find a map and go get it and still be able to find out where we have to be. It's just it's asinine to
The
me for these kids not to know how to read a map. And some of you that are listening to this show right now,
so
I'm talking to you because you're one of them.
the movie The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, one of the most horrifying horror films of all time, is entirely believable because during the 70s, there was the
Mm-hmm.
gasoline crisis. You could only buy gasoline on every other day. So the potential of running out of gas and knocking on the wrong door of the chainsaw inbred crazies was indeed possible. That believability is what makes that movie so terrifying. This shit could happen because there's logic to it. If your phone breaks down and you're stranded, you're totally stranded
Well
because
said.
you don't know what to do.
It was, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they tried to say that that was a true story.
It was inspired by a psycho killer
Right.
named Ed Gein, and it's a stretch of the truth, but
Yeah,
it's
and they
good
never
hype. It
found
works
them
for me.
apparently. So that made the fear even more. And it was like the movie Amityville Horror. It was like, you believe that house was haunted, and some people say it was. The family that the movie was made out of said that there was a lot of strange things going on there now. But now the people that live there now say they don't experience it anymore. It's they I'm not experiencing it anymore. They say that they never experienced anything like the movie. So it's all Hollywood and hype and things like that. I get that and definitely understand that.
So Devon, growing up and living in Long Island, did you ever go to the Amityville house?
Yes, well, here's the deal. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, actually. In 1983, when crack came on the scene, I lived in the projects. From the projects, it was getting rough, and my parents said we have to get Devon out of here. We got to get him out of here before he becomes another statistic. And my aunt, who lived in Huntington, Long Island, East Northport, said, "Why don't he come live with me? He can come. He can be with me Monday through Friday. Friday through Sunday, he can go back home to Brooklyn." So it was like, okay. And that's what I did. So I always think of Long Island as my second home. I went to the John Glenn High School in East Northport. That was my school. And I enjoyed it immensely, miss it so much. But in hearing the about the Amityville horror, it petrified me when I watched it as a kid. But now to know I was only 30 minutes away from the house, I had to go see it. Never had the guts to go see it until I come now some years later, almost 25, 30 years later, I basically um, come back to the WWE and I get in touch with my high school social studies teacher on Facebook. And she tells me how her nephew is a huge wrestling fan and so forth and so on. And they wanted to come to the show. So they come to the show and I let them come in the back and meet all the wrestlers after everything was said and done. So they were like, "Oh, Devon, we have to get out of here. We have to catch our train going back." I said, "Why catch the train?" I said, "Just come with me. I'll take you guys home." They're like, "No, we can't." I said, "No, get in the car." I was like, "Come on, you're coming with me. I'll take you guys home." So I took them home and I said, "Where are we going?" They said, "Amityville." I said, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, man." I said, "You live in Amityville now?" I said, "Oh, great." I said, "Hey, let me ask you a question. You wouldn't by chance remember the Amityville horror story?" She goes, "Remember it?" She goes, "I live a block away from it." I go, "You're kidding." He goes, "No." So we get to the neighborhood, and she was literally a block away from the Amityville house. And you had to go past it in order to get to her house. And so I remember pulling up, and it looks nothing like you see on TV. It's totally different from what you see on TV. And that's when I realized it was all Hollywood that made it look the way it did. Because in the movie, it looked all creepy and haunted. It lived up to its hype. But when you see the original house, it doesn't. But what I noticed was on the grass, it had a sign that said, "No soliciting, and please do not take pictures or come knocking on our door to ask questions about the home." People were still to this day going up to the house, knocking on there, wanting to take a tour. And these are people that actually live there now. So they're being bombarded by fans of the movie. And they had to put the signs and stuff like that up there. It gave me,
The reason that
it gave me, I'm not
the
gonna
re,
lie. I don't know if it was, excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't know if it was because of the movie or because of how fearful I was when I saw it as a child, but I remember it gave me goosebumps when I saw it. Um, and you got to remember too, in 1970, whenever that was made, 78, 79, Long Island just started being built up. It looks like a little miniature New York now. But back then in the day, it was like country. You didn't have as much buildup as you have now. And so when you watch the movie, it was like supposedly on some lake property. Nothing was really around it and this and that. So, it kind of gave me you know, that feeling of it was like an eerie feeling. But I'm wondering if it was an eerie feeling because of the fear that I once had for the movie back then.
I would venture to say yes, because we always remember our past. The reason that house has gone through such a transformation is because of all the looky-loos and the fans. And the reason why it used to look much different was it had different shutters, and it kind of looked like eyes.
Mhm.
And that was part of the attraction and the mystique to it. And you can't blame the new owners for changing, and getting rid of the hassle of it used to be a dare. Will you go to the Amityville house? And I grew up in New York. I grew up in a town called Mamaroneck, which is in
Oh
Westchester.
yeah. Hmm.
And I remember reading the Amityville horror. The Catholic schoolgirls always had the scariest and best books. And one of the rites of passage was this book called Michelle Remembers that was totally terrifying. The Exorcist was terrifying, and the Amityville Horror was terrifying. At the Amityville Horror being something that was reachable, was touchable. You could go see the Amityville Horror House in Long Island, and for much too long, people would go there to check it out and spook themselves, scare
Hmm.
themselves.
I mean, it was something. And one of the movies you just mentioned too, The Exorcist, which Duke could tell you, it bothered me. That to me, that was the scariest movie I had ever seen. Both of my parents being reverends and preachers, and then having to go to Bible school and all of that, and live in Sunday school and go to church and revival and all of that. It's like that was common, not the pea soup or twisting your head around, but possession was very real in the church at one point, even though the Catholics looked at it at, later on in time as something that was hokey or what have you. But in the Baptist religion, it was still believable, not to the extent of the movie, but just the realism of being possessed. So as a kid growing up, it scared me. And I basically, you know, I was fearful of it. So, and for many years, even as an adult, I couldn't watch the movie. And every so often on regular TV, they would show it, but they would show you coming attractions of it. And of course, you would hear that voice and then see Linda Blair's face, and my body would heat up like there was no tomorrow. I would turn away. I would turn the channel. I mean, it was the craziest thing. And I said to myself, I said, one day I got to meet Linda Blair. I said, I have to, in order for me to get over this, because I saw the making of The Exorcist, which took a little bit away from it for me. And Bubba used to always mess with me. He would text me these memes with Linda Blair's face or her doing a spider walk, walking down, and I would scream because I was in my hotel room by myself, and I would scream and throw my phone and go, "You dick!" And he'd be right behind. He would be right in the room next to me, and I could hear him laugh. And I go, "It's not funny, asshole." I said, "I'm here by myself. I have to sleep with the light and the TV on." So, but I said, in order for me to get over this, I gotta meet. I got one day. I hope to meet her. And I was at a Comic Con. That might have been last year or the beginning of this year. I think it was last. No, it was the beginning of this year, I think. And Linda Blair was on the Comic Con, and I remember going, I got to go over there and say hi. And it was probably one of the nervous feelings I had ever had. I was so nervous, so scared, and I remember going up to her. She was the sweetest lady I had ever met. We talked. We shared a couple of laughs. We took pictures together. It's on my Instagram, and I mean, it was phenomenal to be able to talk to her and tell her you scared me for not only all my childhood but my adult years as well. And she laughed and she goes, "I get that all the time." And I mean, it was really cool to be able to talk to her, and we exchanged numbers. She was, because I wanted her to be on the Duke show. She was like, "Yeah, give me a call, and let's try to set something up and this and that." But she's very into the dog
Dog
shelter,
rescue.
yeah, dog rescue and things like that. And she made it perfectly known that she wanted to talk about that and not so much the movie itself. And like I said, she was one of the sweetest ladies I had ever met. And as far as I'm concerned, Reagan McNeely, which was the character she played, doesn't scare me anymore.
Oh, hold on a second, fellas. We're getting down here into all this horror films and stuff like that. Dell, you haven't even explained who you are.
Hi, universe. Uh, I wear many. I wear many different hats. First and foremost, I'm the road manager for Guns N' Roses. I've been associated with the band since 1985. I co-wrote the songs. Yes, "Yesterday's" on "The Garden." I directed a music video for the song "The Garden," and we were on a tour in '93 after the Guns N' Roses Metallica stadium tour called Skin and Bones, and it was a stripped down tour. Instead of Madison Square Garden, the New Haven Coliseum, and places like that. And we were on the plane, and I was given the task of, you're going to direct this video somehow, some way. and we don't want to perform in it. We'll just make little vignettes. So we were hubbing out of Manhattan, and this goes back to what Devon was saying about Brooklyn getting rough. So I filmed Axel getting on a subway train. We had no permits. We were just stealing, our locations, Slash in his hotel room, yada yada yada. So for Duff, we went to Williamsburg, and as Devon can testify, Williams Williamsburg was a fucking war
Yeah, it
zone.
was.
We we went to some burned out buildings, and we were there for maybe 10 minutes tops, and fearing for our lives because it was so sketchy and so just out of control. So when you see the garden video, which MTV, I have the distinction of being the first music video that MTV didn't ban outright, but they would only show it after 11 p.m. because it was a little too racy, a little too grim, a little too fucked up. And when you see the scenes that Duff is in, that's Williamsburg. I do all kinds of things. I have a graphic novel that came out recently, which is why I'm here. It's called Consensual Violence, and it's my love letter to professional wrestling. It's about a tag team in Juarez, Mexico, featuring an American gal named Kristen Moore, whose lucha name is La Viuda de Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's widow, and her tag team partner Luna Vampira. And it starts off messed up, and it progressively gets worse and worse and worse. Up in the antes worse. They are in peril. And I'm extremely proud and thrilled to be here talking about this wonderful graphic novel, big ass comic book that is my love letter to professional wrestling.
And Devon, I'm going to get you a copy of this because let me tell you something, man. The illustration, first and foremost, it kind of reminds me of the old Sandman comics. It is incredible. And the storytelling is incredible as well there, Del. How the hell did you come up with this, man?
So one night I was watching a El Santo and Blue Demon movie. And for viewers who are unfamiliar with the El Santo, Blue Demon, Lucha Libre movies of the 70s, these guys were Mexican Batman and Robin. These guys fought werewolves and the mafia and all kinds of stuff. But they did it in their gimmick. They did it in costume. So there would be these dudes driving convertibles with shiny silver or blue masks and capes flowing like this is my everyday attire. This is my casual shit. So I'm watching this film amused beyond words, and I start thinking, how can you do this legit? How could you do something where your protagonists, where your heroes are in life and death situations, wearing costumes, but not having superhero powers? And that was the initial beginning. As a writer, I take a lot of notes, and I started outlining, what eventually became Consensual Violence. And, as Duke mentioned, the art pops. The artist was a fella named Arjuna Susisni. He's an Italian fella. And, we start collaborating. I send him ideas. I show him, what some of like the real wrestling masks look like and stuff like that. But he's over in Italy. English is not his first language. So we had a few communication breakdowns. And I had to, I'm a stickler for detail. If it's not legit, it's going to be exposed. So my man, the Luna Vampira's costume was very fetishy. It's very Catwoman. It's very sexy. And he had her wrestling in like stiletto high heels. I'm like, bro, I love the design, but she needs to actually work in wrestling boots. So Arjuna was the artist. The colorist is a lady named Julia Brusco, and she's world famous, and she's responsible for the tone. It's got a little grit to it. It's got a little grime to it, and that's done on purpose. Mexico and El Paso, Texas, are hot and dusty, and it can't be shiny, pristine pages. It's got to be, you know, it's got to invoke a certain connection to exploitation cinema of the 70s, the Santo films, and Thriller, A Cruel Picture, or Ms. 45, or Kill Bill,
Right.
the revenge films that also had an influence upon consensual violence.
I got to tell you, Del, I'm very impressed.
Yes. Not only that, but if I get a copy, I would like for you to autograph it for me, please. Sign it for me.
If you send me an email, I will send you a physical copy. It's an honor to be here talking to you guys.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to talk to you. I mean, again, just as much as we, in other words, ECW and all the talent during that time has entertained you, again, you Axel, the gang, Slash, you got Duffy, all you guys have entertained millions upon millions with your music, your video, and just I'm sure the music has touched people's lives, just like wrestlers touch people's lives, storyline wise and everything. And that was the one thing I love about you guys is that you guys had a story behind each song, and everybody could relate to it. It was a fabulous album, and then you continue to make more albums that basically just blew everybody's mind.
Axl Rose is an American poet and fantastic storyteller. He works so hard to make sure that his lyrics are spot on. He throws away stuff that most of us would kill to be able to write. And I've seen his process. I've been with him in the studio. I've been with him in a bedroom writing lyrics, and the man takes no shortcuts. He is, a fantastic, fantastic storyteller and speaker of truths. That's the thing that resonates about Appetite for Destruction and Use Your Illusions and Chinese Democracy. When he says something, you can tell he believes it because it's his reality and it's the truth.
No, there was a song that ECW used with you guys.
I know it very well.
Yes, and I'm drawing a blank now on the name of the song because I'm talking to you.
It was November
November
Rain. It
Rain.
was November.
Yep, and it was for the ECW pay-per-view, November to Remember. And I'll be honest with you, before I got to ECW, I was in the clubs bouncing, and they would turn on wrestling, and I would see ECW, and they would always show and promote that particular pay-per-view. It wasn't a pay-per-view back then. It was considered just a big show because we hadn't reached pay-per-view yet. But I remember being in the clubs bouncing and watching the commercial to sell this tape, and that song would fit perfect for what they were trying to do. And this is what I said earlier, the story behind the music fits just about everything that you could relate with and relate to. And that pay-per-view or that particular big show, that song fit perfect for that particular show.
At the end of the November Rain video, there's a plug that says, based on the short story Without You by Del James.
Hmm.
That short story is in my collection of short horror called The Language of Fear. So before Guns N' Roses released Appetite for Destruction, before anybody knew who they were, Axl was in, what would today be called a toxic relationship. And he's my dear friend. He's my brother. And, I'm the outsider looking in. I see trouble on the horizon, but I'm not mature enough to be able to articulate it to him on a one-on-one. So I wrote this short story about, a rock and roll tragedy. Read between the lines. It's me telling him, be careful of this situation you're involved in. He got the message and, essentially paid it back, thanked me by using elements of the Without You story in the Don't Cry video, the Estranged video, and the November Rain video. And just to be, you know, attached to those songs and those music videos is one of my greatest accomplishments, and I am truly blessed to have had that happen to me.
Now, being that it was, you said it was kind of like life imitating itself in terms of that story was based off of a relationship that Axel had back then. In the end of the video, apparently the young lady passed away, died, and he goes to the funeral
Right.
and all of that. Was that the case? Was that really the case? That what happened?
That's in the short story, but in reality, in the relationship that Axel was in, there was no death.
Gotcha. Okay, that's I wasn't sure because again, not knowing and hearing from you about this and going back to remember the video, I remember saying to myself, even way back then, this seems to be something that the group, I didn't know Axel was writing and how big he was in it. So I thought it was the group. Somebody in that group must have went through this. I mean, because not only is it strong, but you can't seem to turn away from it. It grabs your attention the minute the video starts to the end. And that is art at its best right there.
MTV was a powerful vehicle in its heyday. MTV could make or break you, but nobody had pushed the boundaries of what video's potential were as much as, Guns N' Roses eventually did when the Use Your Illusions record. And, November Rain has had over a billion views. And, to this day, it still holds up against anything of that generation or this generation.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Del, you guys have been such a major part of everyone's life with this music and the evolution of not only Guns N' Roses, but the evolution of storytelling through. And to find out that you're also an author is just so incredible because, of course, you are. Of course, you're an author. Of course, you put out the graphic novel. Of course, you had the short stories and what have you. It only makes sense. But you're a guy who grew up with Axel. You were a good friend of his. You became the tour manager. Are you sure you don't want to get in the band and sing a couple of licks as well, brother?
Man, when I moved out to California in 1985, my dream was to be a singer in a band. Unfortunately, the only thing holding me back, because I had the look and the attitude and all that thing, I sound like zombies trying to fucking crawl through your door whenever I open my mouth. My singing skills are so bad that I embarrass myself.
Del, that's what I tell Devon. That's the reason why I'm not ever going to step in a wrestling ring. Devon's been trying to get me to wrestle Cody Rhodes for some strange reason, and I keep telling him, I don't know, man. I don't know if I could do it the way the Dudley Boys did it. So I might as well just stay out of the ring and just keep running my mouth. What do you think about that?
Don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. He's full of shit. He takes his foot and puts it in his mouth when it comes to Cody Rhodes. And he didn't think I was gonna call him out on it. And I did. And then come to find out that he'd done that before and met Cody. So I said, you know what? Let's do this. Let's stop talking the BS. Let's do things how we used to do it back in the day. If we're gonna settle us like men. Let's get a match for you and Cody at WrestleMania. Winner will shut the other one up. So I've been trying to push that, and I think I'm coming very close to it. So we might see an attraction
Oh my God.
after Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. There might be that insert. You know when you buy the video and it has those special features? That's going to be the match between Duke and Cody Rhodes.
A dark match,
A dark match, yes.
no holds barred street fight.
No, definitely. I like your way of thinking. You see, that's why I'm glad you're on the show. No holds barred street fight. I love it. I absolutely love it.
You know who my favorite wrestler in WWE is right now?
Who?
Who's that?
Take a guess. Take a guess.
Roman Reigns.
No, sir. But close.
Obafemi.
Jacob Fatu.
Jacob Fatu. Okay, yes, yeah.
Jacob Fatu was working the independents out here in California, and we were privileged to watch that guy work for like Game Changer Wrestling or other small promotions. I seen Jacob Fatu do a moonsault off a cage. And Sabu was also on that same card. It was down in Long Beach somewhere. And Fatu is just the real deal.
He really is.
Fatu would have been a perfect locker room brother for ECW because the man is fearless and he comes across as legitimate. He comes across as a monster when he wants to be a monster.
Absolutely. I mean, I enjoyed watching his father. I was a big fan of his dad's. Tama of the Islanders. And when Tama first came in to the WWF and was with Jimmy Snooker and was actually taking on Roddy Piper and Ace Cowboy Bob Orton. I used to love those matches, and I just, even back then, as a kid who was not smart to the business, but understood it, I saw the talent in his dad and the way he would move and the bounce and the step that he had. And I mean, it was like he had legs that had springs in them, how athletic he was, and just overall, just how good of an entertainer he was. And then when I saw Jacob, it's like watching a young Tama. It's like watching a young one. And it lightens my heart to see that because I watched his dad as a child growing up. Now I'm seeing that next generation and he's just blowing it out the water. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, he's on fire and rightfully so. I grew up on WWWF.
Yes.
And went to events at the Westchester County Center in White Plains, New York, where I saw Bruno Sammartino defend the WWWF belt against Blackjack Mulligan, against Waldo Von Erich. I saw superstar Billy Graham. He wasn't the champion at the time, against Ivan Putski. So like little kids do, you all run up to get a closer look at the wrestlers, and Billy's in total heel mode. He throws a punch about a mile over our heads. Like little kids, you know how little kids scatter when they're scared and take off running? That was me and about 20 other little kids, each one, running back to their family saying, Billy Graham almost killed me.
Well, hey, listen, you were there for all of that, correct? I
Yes,
want to
sir.
say, how about I invite you to WrestleMania this coming Las Vegas this year, where you can actually sit front row and watch in a dark match The Duke take on Cody Rhodes. I would love to have you as my personal friend.
Come on, man.
And we can sit right there and watch him.
Oh, man, that's a dream match.
See, and you can say you've been there.
It sells itself.
Exactly.
I mean,
come on.
Now,
you just got to say Duke loves wrestling and some other guy on the marquee. It's a sellout.
Now, see, the dirt sheets want to write about me and say things and this and that. How about you quote me on this and say this? I demand a match between Cody Rhodes and the Duke. And let's get this going and let's get this right. So you could be sitting front row watching it firsthand, just like you did for Bruno and just like you did for all the great matches that you saw at the Westchester County Center. What do you say, Duke?
You know what? I thought that first of all, D-Bon, I'm not even surprised at you anymore because you've been carrying on lately with this Cody Rhodes stuff. But Del James, I thought we made a connection. I told you about how your music changed my life and all this stuff. We bonded about the Yankees. And you're going to sit here and encourage Devon Dudley because y'all got this ECW thing going on. What's up with you, Del? Is this your heel turn on me?
No. I'm a tweener. I'm on both sides of the line, okay?
I love it. Absolutely love it. Cha-ching. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, Triple H, don't get any ideas, Triple H. Don't get any ideas.
No, please.
Stop.
No, please
That's
do. I wrote listen, I got it in my notes. I know exactly what I would like to see happen. Of course, you can overrule it, or say yes or no to whatever. But I think it'll work. I think it'll draw big money.
D-Boy, you're going to be the producer of that match.
Yes.
You're going to be the producer of that
Oh,
match, huh?
you
Is that what it
you,
is?
you better believe that one.
Hey, Devon, I have a question.
Sure.
One of the most underrated tag teams, in my opinion, one that gets overlooked, criminally overlooked, are the Eliminators.
Yes. Perry Saturn and John Cronus. You know, I have nothing but the utmost respect for those two guys. God rest John Cronus and soul. Um, they truly helped me and Bubba get to a level that we could have never gotten to if it wasn't for them. We won our first championship match with them. I mean, we did it all. Perry was a bit of a loose cannon, but he basically was there to help us and to guide us. And I can never forget that for him. He was truly, truly a good mentor and a good friend. John Cronus was probably one of the craziest guys I had ever met. Was one of the most, how do I say this? He was probably one of the most enjoyable big man to ever watch to do the things that he did in that ring. No big man in the history of this business has ever done what John Cronus did. I mean, it was incredible to see that man in action.
Perry as the workhorse, and then Kronos doing the moonsault or something like
Oh
that,
yeah.
and total elimination. It was so fucking good.
They were the first, and I'm not taking anything away from the tag teams that have come before us or the Eliminators, but not taking anything away from Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, Tully and on. But they were the first legit tag team that I can honestly say that basically was in sync with one another with the evolution of how wrestling became went from the old school way of doing things to the new school way. They were just incredible to watch. They were on target. And if you watched ECW's Barely Legal 1997 from Philadelphia at the ECW Arena, beating the Dudleys, you could see them in action and see just how in sync they really were.
Wait, now, hold on a second, Del. If you were to make a pro wrestling theme today, right? Let's say you and the whole band get together. Y'all going to put this thing together now. What would it sound like, man? Whether you're thinking of the Dudleys and the old ECW, or you're thinking about Jacob Fatu and some of the guys today, what would it sound like to make a theme for pro wrestlers?
It would not be mellow. It's got to have energy. It's got to have a drive to it. There are rock and roll anthems. The Scorpions, Rock You Like a Hurricane. Fuck, the wrestler using Sweet Child of Mine when Mickey Rourke's character goes to the ring. You can't do any more perfect than that.
Yeah.
So it would lean towards the old school. There's an obscure band called TKO. They were out of the Pacific Northwest. They have a song called I Wanna Fight that needs to be used by someone somewhere in professional wrestling.
I love it. Now, do you play the video games too, there, Del? Or do you dive into that whole world? Because Devon's an expert on that new 2K game.
Man, I had like Sega Genesis. Okay, that shows you how old I am.
Listen,
I had a ColecoVision back in the day
oh
when
my God,
ColecoVision was brand
yes.
new.
I remember. Listen, I mentioned
But
I mentioned ColecoVision now, and people look at me like I have three heads. They're like, "What the hell was ColecoVision?" I said, "It was 50 times. It was a step 50 times setup from Atari. If
yep,
you had ColecoVision back in the day, you were considered rich because not everybody had ColecoVision. Not everybody could afford
I,
that."
I had I had ColecoVision and I had a top loading VCR. Okay, the thing weighed about 70 pounds, and when you press the button for it to open, it made a sound like
Yeah.
ka-chunk, I- and so my friends and I would often play ColecoVision, and they had this one game. It was like a smiley face with a bow and arrow, and you had to work your way through a maze and shoot your rival. But the difference in yesteryears and today's modern wrestling games, it's phenomenal.
It really
Phenomenal.
is. The new,
Listen, like I said, expert.
yeah, the new 2K game came out, and me and Bubba were on the front cover with a host of the other WWE superstars, representing the Attitude Era, which was a privilege and an honor, to be on. And I have a YouTube channel, Devon Dudley YouTube, and is doing extremely successful. And we basically did a show based off the new game that came out, and the graphics are incredible. The style of play is just incredible. And my daughter was kind of teaching me how to play. So it was one of those things where, she's 7 years old. And so it was one of those things where I've had so much fun playing it. I never had that much fun with a video game until I played that one.
On Monday Night Raw, when Asuka and Kiri were going to the ring, they were animated out of the new game, and then it morphed into them in real life.
Mhm.
And I thought I was having a fucking LSD flashback. I was like, did that really happen?
Listen, my brother Spike knows all too well about LSD. That's where his gimmick came from. I loved it. If you watched ECW, you knew Spike was tripping on acid every chance he got. It was great. I loved his character. So when you say that, that brings back memories of Spike Dudley.
Spike Dudley could take massive bumps. That he was being thrown out of the ring into the audience and the audience caught him was so punk rock.
The bumps that he took was insane. But I think the biggest one that everybody remembers when you watch ECW is when Bam Bam Bigelow took him and served him through the crowd. And
Yep.
what people don't realize is that the first time that happened, there wasn't no plants. That was real. That really happened. Bam Bam threw him in the crowd, and the ECW fans just decided to serve him.
Which is why we remember ECW so fondly. ECW was dangerous. It had an edge to it. You never knew what was going to happen. Sabu, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho, the Eliminators, the Dudleys, the Gangsters, the Public Enemy, the Pitbulls. Everybody had something special and brought something unique to the card. And, the Dudley lineage, Spike, Big Dick, Sign Guy, Bubba Ray, Devon. Wasn't there an Indian at some point?
Yeah, dances with Dudleys.
You know what I mean? Fuck me, right?
There was 9 Dudleys altogether. There were 9 of us.
Fucking
I think
awesome.
it was. Let me see if I can go to the road because I was just asked this question. Dudley. Hold on. Dudley, Snot Dudley, Big Dick Dudley, Dances with Dudleys, Sign Guy Dudley, Chubby Dudley, Devon Dudley, Spike Dudley, and Bubba Ray Dudley. There you go.
Wow.
And out of all the Dudleys,
Jeez. Your parents were very busy.
Listen, Big Daddy Dudley went through all of the United States, sowing his royal oats. And when he got to an Indian reservation, that's where Dances with Dudleys were made. And then he went deep down South Mississippi somewhere when he watched Deliverance once too many times, and that's where Bubba was made. And then, of course, he went to the south side of Dudleyville, and there you go, and Devon was made. But then one of the biggest trips was, no point intended, what I'm about to say, he took a hit of LSD, and Spike was made. So every Dudley had a story behind how they were born.
You guys had way too much fun doing that.
Oh yeah, we did. We had way too much fun.
You guys had way too much fun.
No, I was gonna say it's almost as much fun as I'm gonna have is watching at WrestleMania Cody Rhodes versus the Duke. I'm gonna have so much fun watching that.
Come on.
And I dare you shoot writers to sit there and to make that go viral. Put that as your front page. Devon says he would love to see the Duke and Cody Rhodes go at it at WrestleMania after he takes on Randy Orton.
You know what I really enjoy? You know what I really love? That you still refer to them as the dirt sheets.
That's what they are.
And I would love to call them the Inquirer, but I can't. That's giving them too much credit. But they just wait for me to slip up. They don't. They're just waiting for me to say one wrong thing, and then I'm done. They will take words that I say and twist it for its own good, and that's what they do. And hey, it is what it is. Hey, if they're not talking about me, then I ain't doing my job. So that's the way I got to look at it.
There's a panel in the comic book where a villain says something along the lines of, "You go talk into the dirt sheets, and I'll make sure you never work another match." So
It,
that I got my dialogue proper, means a lot to me.
and again, I don't hate them. I don't hate them at all. And I want you guys to know that, dirt sheet writers. I don't hate you. I don't hate you at all. I just wish that some of the things that if we were having a conversation about face to face, that you don't go twist it just to make it look good on your end, to have people, go to your site and the view and see what Devon said, because damn well I didn't mean it the way I said I meant it. I just, I like a lot of them. I have some people that are writers like that, but they don't twist my stories or twist what I say. If I want to say, hey guys, can we talk off the record? They will respect that and go off the record and talk with me.
I have a background in journalism. I was a rock and roll writer for a magazine called Rip Magazine, and what you're saying is true. As the writer, you had to respect the talent and what they were saying and make sure that their story gets told accurately,
Mm-hmm.
or else they're going to write you off. They're not going to want to work with you again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how, mutually beneficial relationships, occur. Hey, that guy treated me with respect. I will allow him to interview me again.
Mm-hmm. And that's the way I felt.
Yeah. Listen, they all can't be Mike Johnson.
No.
Say whatever you want about Mike Johnson. You've been around a long time. That man actually has integrity and has respect, and he does what he can to get it right. And when he gets it wrong, more importantly, he's not afraid to retract. So
Quick
shout
story,
out to Mike Johnson.
quick short story. Shout out to my dear friend Mike Johnson. So 100 years ago, when you had to have a dial-up modem and use America Online to get on this thing called the internet, there was a group of us who used to meet regularly and just mark out, just fucking talk wrestling and what I would do if I was booking, blah 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 blah. So within this group was a fella named Jeremiah Evans who worked the merchandise table at ECW when the merchandise person didn't show up, and some of his photographs have showed up in like Raven's documentary. There was the Blue Meanie would bless us by coming in every now and then. Lou D'Angeli, Sign Guy Dudley would come in every now and then. And there was also Mike Johnson was also part of this crew, and we all traded tapes and gimmicks and shirts and stuff like that. And there was a 14-year-old kid or 15-year-old kid or 13-year-old kid who could seriously talk wrestling. And because you didn't see each other, you didn't know how old someone was. And that dude was Tony Khan.
Okay. Well, big ups to Tony Khan.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Tony, my boy.
It's amazing that this group of friends went on to do whatever it is that they went on to do. And it just, the universe put us there together.
Mm-hmm. Again, so many people came out of ECW. And, I'm very happy to be a part of it. People said, well, would you have liked to have been a part of this generation? And I say respectfully, no, because I don't think I would have been as successful in this generation as I was back then. I tell you why. Hear me out. The drive that you had to have back then to be in this business was incredible. What you had to go through to get to a certain level was insane. And the way sometimes the business is now, you don't need skill, you don't need anything. It's just basically, well, I like you, so I'm going to put you in the ring. I like you, so I'm going to push you. It's like it doesn't even matter anymore if you're good or not. It's like that old saying, nowadays when kids do little league baseball or football, everybody gets a trophy. Why? If you didn't win, you don't get a trophy. And the thing
Absolutely.
about it is, that made you want to work even harder to get that trophy. So you went back to the drawing board and you worked and you worked and you bust your behind until you had another shot at the title. And then, if you were able to win, then you won. Then you got the trophy. But it gave you character. It helped you build. And I think that's what this generation misses so much. And with that being said, that's why I don't think I would have been able to survive in this generation, because again, there is no drive. People expect everything to be given to them, and that I don't believe. That I've never believed, and that I never will.
The participation trophy means nothing. It's it's a nice concept, but losing builds character.
Hmm.
Losing, getting your ass kicked but getting back up means a lot more than getting a participation trophy.
Or like today, you get into a fight with somebody, you beat them up or they beat you up, but guess what? You live to fight another day. Now people get their ass beat for starting stuff that they started, and then they want to shoot you
Or sue you.
or sue you. That's the thing. Or sue you. That's the part that I never got to understood.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you again, all you fans out there, pro wrestling fans come from all walks of life. And it is so refreshing and so cool. Just like Del said, to see where everyone ends up, to see all the different places everyone comes from. Del James is legitimately part of rock and roll history. He's part of music history. And the fact that he comes here on Devon and the Duke to talk about his fandom and how long he's enjoyed watching Devon and his brothers and the whole ECW crew and what have you, and even to today, Jacob Fatu and what have you. I'm not happy that Del James is not trying to talk Devon out of booking this Cody Rhodes match between Cody and I. But outside of that, though, it's really refreshing. And again, it just goes to show pro wrestling is universal. It's for everybody.
You know what? I got an
Damn right.
idea. I
Del,
got an
tell.
idea. Before you sign off, I got an idea. He brought up Tony Khan and that he's friends with Tony Khan, which is cool. Big shout out to Tony Khan. Love him. I was wondering maybe if you could maybe talk to Tony Khan and maybe, just maybe try to work out something with WWE to where maybe we can get it on AEW, where it would be the Duke versus Cody Rhodes. We can have Cody Rhodes for one night.
Give him back his old TNT belt that he lost.
There you go. There you go.
I mean, why just make a match? Let's make this a championship match.
I love the way you think. Listen, this is the reason.
Multi-promotion.
This is the reason why you have been with Guns N' Roses for so long and you've done the things that you've done. This is why. Your way of thinking is impeccable. And I'm a huge fan from this point on.
Thank you.
Del, tell everybody how they can get a copy themselves, man, because I'm telling you, this is such a beautiful work of art. And the fact that you took so much time and effort into putting this together, people are going to go crazy over it. And what's the best way they can get a copy for themselves?
The easiest, quickest, and least expensive means of acquiring a copy of Consensual Violence is Amazon.com.
And the tour, what kind of stops are you guys going to be making? Are we already sold out, or can folks still get a couple of tickets there?
The tour, which begins this Saturday in Monterey, we're in South America for a month, a lot of shows in Brazil. Looking forward to those rabid crowds, passionate fans. It's always wild in South America. Then we're home for a short break. Then we go to Europe. The Download Festival is part of the itinerary. I know there are shows in Berlin, Amsterdam, yada, yada, yada. Then we return home for another short break, and that tour will take us across North America. North America opening acts at different locations include Public Enemy, The Black Crowes, Pierce the Veil, Ice Cube. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but it's going to be another massive production. Monday was the last rehearsal, and the band is on fire.
Love it.
Wow, I love it. Yeah. Listen, if you guys make a Boston stop and the Black Crowes promise to do "She Talks to Angels," I'm all over it, bro. I'm all over it.
Hold on, you mean
All right?
like you gonna be all over Cody
listen.
Rhodes?
Oh, come on. Listen, Cody Rhodes is an egg-sucking dog who would have turned on his daddy and joined Ric Flair. He's a Ric Flair wannabe. Don't blame me for exposing Cody Rhodes for what he truly is. That's all I'm going to say about that. That's right.
So you know how I was referring the AOL grandstand and people getting together to talk smack about wrestling? This reminds me of that, and it warms my fucking heart.
Listen, I'm gonna try and make
We
it
don't
happen.
know how to act, man. They gave us 3 Spotify awards last year, Del, and we going viral every week. We don't know how to act, man. That's it. You know.
Yeah,
that's it.
But after today, they're taking 2 back, so we're good.
That's right.
That's great.
Listen, Del James, you have classed up the joint, and we appreciate it. We love the fact that Guns N' Roses is still out there kicking butt, man. We are huge fans, like I told you from the beginning, like Devon told you, and we love all you guys, man. And really, truly, from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of all music fans out there, thank you, and thank the rest of the Guns N' Roses family over there for all that you have contributed to our lives. We really appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely, thank you, and please give my best to Axel and Slash and them, the whole crew, and just tell them how much of a big fan I am of Guns N' Roses, and thank you for all your contributions to music.
Absolutely, consider the message relayed.
Strictly for the culture every day. Stepping style in your unique way. Patterns and colors so divine. All about the perfect line. Be yourself, let your spirit fly. In this fashion, you'll touch the sky. Strictly for the culture, brand so fine. Dress to impress and show your shine. Strictly for the culture, every day. Step in style in your unique way.
Visit www.strictlyfortheculture.ca.
Backstage whispers and the crowds roar. From matching giants to legends of yore. Devon's wisdom and Duke's keen view. Every episode feels like it's brand new. Devon and the Duke bring the heat. Wrestling tales knock you off your seat. Tune in now, don't you be late. Wrestling podcast never